The Guardian has just published a new report that has found that hundreds of thousands of residents in the city of Chicago, Illinois, could be drinking water that has enough toxic lead in it to cause serious health concerns. The two reporters behind this story are with us now. Erin McCormick, she's an independent data reporter for The Guardian, and Taylor Moore, she's a freelance journalist in Chicago. Erin, I want to start with you. What did the data show? What did you find?
Well, it showed very concerning amounts of lead in the water. About 1 in 20 homes had more lead in its drinking water than is allowed by the Environmental Protection Agency. And about a third of the tests we looked at showed levels above what is allowed for bottled water in the US. And federal officials have said that no amount of lead is safe. What's more alarming is the huge number of homes in Chicago that are connected to the water system with lead pipes. There's 400,000 homes in Chicago with lead service lines. That's about 80% of the housing stock. And if our results held for that whole population, that would be a very large number of people drinking low levels of lead.
And Taylor, for all of the thoughts that a lot of us have about cities like Flint, Michigan, which had the water crisis, we don't think of Chicago as being a city that has sort of decrepit pipes and lead water problems. Were there specific neighborhoods that you found that this was happening more in?
Yeah, we found that the prevalence of lead pipes was common, especially in low-income Black and brown neighborhoods across the city. 9 of the top 10 zip codes. Erin found that 9 of the top 10 zip codes with the most lead were neighborhoods on the south and west sides of the city, which are majority Black and majority Latino.
What's been the reaction from those communities and also city leaders to your reporting?
There's a lot of frustration with the city. Advocates, the media here, residents have known this has been a problem for years. And Chicago, was installing lead pipes in the city up until 1986, which is decades after most cities had already outlawed the use of lead pipes. So it's been a problem for a long time, and I think people are really fed up with this public health crisis that's not being taken very seriously by the city.
And Erin, it seems like a clear public health crisis, obviously for Chicago, but how common is this thing, or can we make any projections about how common this may be in other cities that have similar lead piping structures?
Yeah, it's not just a Chicago story, it's a national story. The Natural Resources Defense Council has estimated that up to 11 million homes in the US have these lead pipes. Chicago at least has run these tests for residents showing what might be in the water, but a lot of these places we don't know what these people are drinking, and many cities don't even know where the lead pipes are in their cities.
And Erin, I seem to remember that the Biden 2021 infrastructure bill was supposed to address at least some of this, but I gather that the resources that were put in that bill are simply not enough to deal with a large majority of this.
Well, it's true that they won't be enough, but those resources have just been starting to get out there. So the money is now flowing to the states and the cities to start doing this work. But it's going to really take a major effort for these cities to mobilize to actually get these pipes out of the ground. And in fact, Chicago, we found, has only gotten 180 of its 400,000 lead service lines removed thus far.
Taylor, the people who are most susceptible to lead poisoning, those would be younger people, children primarily?
Yeah, lead is a neurotoxin. There's no safe level of consumption of lead. Lead can lead to lower IQs, behavioral disorders, intellectual disorders, and in adults it can also lead to kidney problems, increased blood pressure, and this also is exacerbated for pregnant women.
Taylor, what tipped off you and Erin in terms of pursuing this story in the first place?
I think Erin can speak to that.
Erin?
We've been looking all around the country at some of the issues that are coming up with lead, and had heard from some of the experts in this area that that these lead service lines are going to be a huge push for our nation to get rid of, and Chicago has the highest number. So
when we talk about, for example, the city of Flint in Michigan, was that a very expensive fix? I mean, putting aside obviously the settlements and the payments to the families, but just in terms of the infrastructure, is that a very expensive haul?
It's expensive for any city, and I think that's why the Biden administration has been pushing so hard to at least start to address it with the infrastructure funds. Like Flint and many other cities. In fact, Jackson, Mississippi also has a big lead problem, in addition to the water problem that turned off the water there to residents for something like a month just recently. But there are many cities around the nation with these problems, and they don't have the resources. It's going to cost a lot, and it's going to take real action from those city governments, even to take advantage of the federal money.
Taylor, you're a freelance journalist in Chicago. Chicago has always struck me as a very proud city, that it's a lot of pride and community pride in how it does things. It feels like this must be something of a huge sort of jolt to residents there, to have a city that is as modern and lovely as Chicago to suddenly realize they're dealing with something this terrible.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the problem has been known for many years, but I think also our investigation helped brought this issue to the forefront, raising it to the level of, this is a national emergency. This is something that we should all care about in the city and across the country. This lead problem is not unique to Chicago, but it is one of the worst. And in the city too, I think there is a lot of frustration with the lack of movement in replacing these lead pipes. There's the Mayor Lightfoot cites the cost, the bureaucracy of replacing these 400,000 lead pipes, but there it's still a lot of frustration, and the Chicago does pride itself on its proximity to Lake Michigan and its fresh water there. So it is a blow for people living just like a couple miles away from the lake to not actually have clean water in their homes.
Erin, a lot of people across the country are hearing this. They're probably thinking, oh my God, what about the water where I am? Is there any predictability in terms of the type of infrastructure, the type of systems that can then predict whether or not a city, municipality is going to have to be dealing with something similar like this?
Well, the lead is at the individual homes. So you may have clean water coming through the mains to the home or to just outside the home. But the smaller pipe that carries the lead from the water main to the home, it may be made of lead. And so people can check their connections by examining their pipes that connect to the water system, and to see, you can sometimes take a quarter and sort of scratch off a little bit, and if it's soft and shiny, that kind of indicates you may have some lead.
And if you do that check, Erin, and suppose you find out, okay, I've got lead pipes, I imagine it's not that expensive to test the water levels, the lead levels, and find out whether your water's contaminated?
Testing is a great idea, and some cities are making that available to residents, and other places you can get a private test. Yes.
And then what though, Erin? Let's just suppose right here where I live in Connecticut, lead pipes, and suppose we find that our water is contaminated. What do people do at that point?
Well, okay, there are some certified lead removal filters, so that's a good stopgap. But really the ultimate answer is to get rid of the lead service lines, and it can be very costly for homeowners. I think nationwide, they estimate it's about $5,000 per home. But in Chicago, they're saying that it can run up to $30,000. And a lot of times they're asking the homeowners to pay this money to do it themselves. So that's one thing the Infrastructure Act may change, is to bring some of that money to help these homeowners.
Taylor, in reporting out this story and putting it together, was there anything that surprised you along the way?
I think, as I mentioned before, I think the lead problem has been known for a while in the city, but I think Erin's investigation into the numbers, into data that was publicly available on the Department of Water Management's website. The city came back and told after we ran the numbers, the city came back and told us that they never actually run an analysis of this information that was on our website, and this is 5 years worth of water test results.
So the city itself is not even running the numbers that they have available. That is remarkable. Erin, I assume that now that you've done this, groundbreaking story, a lot more people are running the numbers, one would hope.
We'd like to find out how many people are actually testing their water now. And in a few weeks, we'll ask for that information again and see if many more people are testing now to find out if their water is contaminated.
And Erin, in general, have the city officials in Chicago, have they been very transparent since you've been working on this?
We've gotten almost nothing out of them, and I believe the mayor gave a major budget address the other day, and she didn't even mention lead.
Wow, that's frightening. Well, look, it's a terrific series, I guess, that you guys are going to have, because I imagine there'll be all sorts of follow-ups as they do start to talk about it and look at the numbers. And again, the headline is hundreds of thousands of people in the city of Chicago, while they may be drinking water that is so contaminated with lead that they're going to face major health issues, and the health issues can run the gamut. Particularly susceptible are kids in the city of Chicago. Remarkable reporting. Erin McCormick, she is the independent data reporter for The Guardian, and Taylor Moore, she's a freelance journalist in the city of Chicago. Taylor and Erin, thank you both so much for doing this and terrific work.
Thank you, David, very much.